even if it's just to say hello. Oh, thank you so much. Hi, welcome everyone. Yeah, and you're always welcome to just like show up to these rituals however you are. Like you know, there's no requirements in terms of, yeah, being ready to like, yeah, I don't know, be on screen or whatever it is. This is definitely like a time to bring ritual into our everyday lives. That's one of the benefits that I find of being online and why, we continue, one of the many reasons why we continue to do this every month for the community and also for us. There's a lot that happens when you're facilitating, as a lot of you know, because you're facilitators yourselves, but also just in the context of our lives, right? And so this is a time where we can really sink in and have the depth of everything that we carry held by something wider, something larger. So take a moment and just pop in the chat where you are, what you're noticing in your body. We're getting things set up here. Harshit is getting the fire ready. I know, I was just, because you were getting ready. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Okay, hi Brandy. Hi Rochelle. Hi Angela. Hi Bree. Hi Carly. Hi Vanessa. Hi Prudence. Natalie. Irene. Hi Chrissy. Hi Mike. Nice to see you. Oh gosh. One time when I was on retreat with Ram Dass a really long time ago in Maui, I can remember kind of tapping into like such a portal of like immense grief. Like I was just like every time, that I spent time with Ram Dass or had any kind of really, I don't know, like heart opening experiences that just happened through grace, I would encounter this like huge well of grief. And at the time, although, even still today, of course, I just had no idea what to do with it. And I would feel so burdened, by this process of my heart, but also like my porous being, just opening and like an opening and opening. And, one of the things that I learned is, one, I think to be able to trust that process, but at the same time to also have like the containment of, mantra, the containment of the ceremony, the ritual, the fire, the community, like to take refuge in the community, to take refuge in the practice as a way of, giving back, and also as a way of creating a containment for all that was moving through and all that continues to move through, each of us as we live like so awake to life and to death and to everything that's, moving in us all the time. So I'm going to get some water, but, I'm curious what you feel in that, or how that, what that brings up for you, or anything else that you want to share before we sink in a little bit deeper. Can you, yeah, okay, great. There's this water bottle here if you want to fill that up, because that's big enough to sustain the ceremony. This one. Okay, whatever's easier. I'm just going to read a few things that are coming through the chat. Thanks. Feeling calm and with a tightness in my chest, oscillating between identifying the bubble in my heart as joy or terror as I realize how much unknown is before me. Grateful to be with you all. Thank you, Bree, for sharing that. And, you know, like, even if you read, if you want to tune in with the chat, something, you know, I oftentimes, like, even when you named that, like the bubble of joy or terror, you know, just like the edges of, you know, what we're encountering in our subconscious that's coming, you know, that is our body, right? That's why we tap in with our body and what that means, because we're directly accessing our subconscious. And so what we don't know yet. And, you know, this is the kind of thing that, like, keeps us up at night. This is the kind of thing that, like, we start to perceive as anxiety, or we become overwhelmed with, you know, when we don't have the language or the community to actually name it and to have it be consciously felt. And that seems like a small thing, because obviously a lot of you practice this all the time in this community, but it's not. It's a huge thing. And we still might wake up with anxiety in the middle of the night, but being able to name it as something other than what the habitual stream is, you know, naming it as a sensation, naming it as, like, something that's teaching us, you know, something that's, like, telling us something, right? That's, like, not just in that kind of alarm bell, what do you call it? Like something's wrong. Like, that's, you know, it's very easy to feel like something's wrong, because there are a lot of things wrong in the world, you know, and so that's there. But there's a layer underneath that, oftentimes, whatever it is that we're encountering in our lives and our dreams, you know, that is also, you know, beckoning us to listen deeper, you know, than what we will habitually perceive. And that's part of what we're practicing here. So I love that so much. And we wanted to, you know, start here as we're, you know, preparing our space for the ceremony. And Harshit is just, you know, like, just kind of moving things around the altar. You can't really see, but lighting a candle. We have, like, you know, Lakshmi over here. We're going to do some Lakshmi mantra today. Yeah, just kind of calling in all these forces. And I wanted to take a moment for you to tap in with and to write in your journal, or if you want to, for those of you that want to share in the chat, you're welcome to. Like, what are some of the things that you're holding, like some fears, or, you know, some things that are kind of like, oh, like, I don't really want to say this. And they could be personal, but also collective, right? What are some of the things that you're feeling fear around, or anxiety around, or just something, some unpleasant, you know, emotion around, just to name it, and to just let yourself take, you know, a few minutes here and just write and just get really honest about, you know, something. Even especially if you're feeling great, like if you came here like, woo, and you're like healing vortex, and you're like, actually, go now. Like, this bitch is always asking me to, like, look at the fucking dark shit, but that's the perfect time to do it, right? Like, because sometimes when you're in it, it's, like, hard to even name. And when you're in your healing vortex, when you're feeling connected, it's the hardest thing to do. But this is a relational tool too. It's like, that's the moment to acknowledge it. That's the moment to talk about it, because it could actually be held in those moments. So wherever you're at is welcome, but naming, you know, something that's like, oof, like, ooh, naming some grief, naming some fear. Yeah. Hold on one second. I can never handle this. Really have to do the next one.
Yeah, to what you were saying about can everyone hear? We just switched from the earbuds to the microphone here. Just like nod your head or thumbs up or.
It seems like it's actually stuck. Hello? Oh, okay, now it's back.
What's stuck?
No, it was like the whole
Oh,
screen
no.
was frozen, but can you guys hear us now? Hello? Hi. Okay, good. Yay, thank you. Everyone's face is moving. So nice to see everybody's moving. Okay.
Well, to what you were saying about, the stuff that you bring up around being, how did you put it? About like what they're afraid of, what they're,
Yeah.
like what
What
the grief
anxiety we're
is,
holding
whatever.
personally and collectively. Yeah.
I once heard I read Ramakrishna say that the guru doesn't really teach knowledge, that the guru actually teaches ignorance, because the knowledge is already inherent in all of us, and that the guru just points out what's not there yet. And I feel like it's the same way with this kind of stuff, that it's like if we're seeking freedom, if we're seeking bliss, if we're seeking Satchidananda, truth, consciousness, bliss, love, all of that, our teachings tell us that's the basis, that's our essence, that's the essence of everything. So then what we have to pay attention to, it's not just that, but we have to pay attention to what is not that for us. That's an illusion, that's not that. And when we think about Lakshmi as a force, and I don't know if it's time to talk about that yet.
Yeah.
Or what we were talking about this morning.
Yeah. I'm like,
do you need to cry for a minute?
Yeah. I do.
We were just thinking, the fire ceremony that we do is very informal. It's not like a formal yajna or a havan or even a homa, these different like fire ceremonies that come from the Indian Hindu tradition. The masters in my lineage, they kept a dhuni, which is like a very simple sacred fire. And I mean, we did this all the way back to when we were kids and in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and camping and making a campfire in the woods and having that moment of just being with the elemental. But, we take for granted a lot of protection around that stuff. It's like my guru did these informal fire ceremonies, and I was trained on how to do that in a way with the assumption that we're going to be protected from any because there's no way we're going to do it right, especially according to all of the sort of like Hindu. Some of it's superstitious, I think, but like there's a great technology within those systems and Sri Vidya, and there's a lot of like really beautiful systems of almost like spiritual technology, and there's no way we're going to do it right. And the assumption is that we're going to be protected by the unseen masters, that we're going to be protected by our spirit guides, but that even these different deities that we invoke, whether it's Ganesha or Lakshmi or whatever it is, that in of itself is this really cool technology where it's like the divine is this unseen, undefinable, uncontrollable power. But, like in the process of devotion, in the process of bhakti yoga, we're trying to have a relationship with it. And so then we have these different like frequencies of the divine that have been kind of defined for us by the sages. Ganesha, obstacle removing, blessing, power, like that. Lakshmi, what would you say? It's like she's usually associated with wealth and money, but it's so much more than that. If you think about like, if you've experienced wealth or if you've experienced the absence of wealth, that if you think about the opposite of all of those energies that you have in the absence of wealth, that's Lakshmi. It's not just money. It's freedom, it's beauty, it's It's a generosity, it's a sort of an ease and like a power of sustenance.
Yeah, I was going to say that she invokes and invites us into that stream of consciousness that is the sustaining force of the universe, right? So, there's these destroying forces, these like, these destructive forces, and then there's these creative forces. And Lakshmi, gives us access in our bodies, like when we're doing this particular kind of ritual, to all that sustains us. And like I oftentimes experience her like as like the part of me that's been there from like before I was even born. It's like something that is like sustaining. And Sally Kempton would oftentimes talk about like the opposite, like what you were just saying, like when you imagine the world, the collective, right? And the opposite, which is greed and addiction and lack, and the ways that we've all inherited that, or we grew up around that. And I could
That
say,
which creates lack in others. Like maybe it's like making money in a certain way, but it's like taking from the earth, or it's taking from the poor, or it's taking from the backs of the workers.
And I think, that's part of why, I mean, I've had, many experiences and, was introduced to Lakshmi actually through Sally Kempton. But I think it's part of why I always return back to it. Because at this time, obviously, when we look at the many forces that we're dealing with in the collective and then in our own lives and how we're carrying those energies in our own bodies, and, in the ways that we work and the ways that we want to see a new world, but we're not in that yet, and in so many ways. And so I feel like there's such a potent medicine. I know for me, just having moved through so many of my own things like addiction and the ways that inherited abuse or oppression has been, I've experienced it within my own body, and how much she's really supported me from not falling into those patterns and energies, and has really created a force field of protection, that I think is so essential, because we're all such vulnerable, tender-hearted beings, I think, if you're here in this space. And there's a power in that vulnerability. But we have to learn how to, have confidence when we're in our vulnerability, because that's where the real kind of power moves through. And that's obviously, as I'm sure takes a lot of practice and a lot of humility. And I was feeling like earlier when I had that emotion kind of bubble up, just like what you were sharing, that knowledge and that wisdom, and even the word bliss, like in yoga, I would love for maybe you to say like what the word bliss means, because it's not this kind of, it's not just feeling good and like being blissed out and that kind of energy. It's actually a quite transformative energy, I guess, if I were to call it something. But I was just feeling how much like grief that I oftentimes hold around never being taught any of this, like growing up in church or learning about God, or, like none of that was like taught, that it was within, like none, like there's so much grief I feel sometimes because, and still like there's so many systems in the world that do not guide us back home to what's that truth of love, that truth of God that's within, and I feel so like, I feel very emotional about that. And I feel a lot of grief about that.
I mean, that's the thing about Ananda. That's the word that, we translate as bliss. Ananda isn't exactly like bliss. Ananda it's something that is innate in us. It's not something that comes over us. It's not something that comes from the outside into us. It's something that is revealed from within. It's like something is uncovered and then it's there. Lakshmi and that energy of bliss, and this is kind of a paradox based on what I just said, but a good way to think of it is like when you are restored from eating or drinking or resting, it's like when you're depleted, like let's just say you're really, really like hungry, or you just really need to eat, and the way that you just get so depleted and so narrow, and then you get some food, like good food, not food that just is going to like blast you into a candy bar or something like that, but you get like nourishing food, and that that energy that kind of like rolls through your being. It's just like, oh, I'm okay. Because we could like live in the 1%, wealth of the whole planet, and our lunch is a couple hours late, and we can start to feel super desperate. Like, I'm starving. I'm literally starving.
That's what our kids say, and we're like, no.
but there's something to that, and like that is also the opposite of Lakshmi. It's like that. That's a way to get into Lakshmi, or think about being really thirsty and having that water, or like really, really depleted, and then you get that good night's sleep after you haven't had it in a while. And then also you can think about Shakti Daridra, which is the Sanskrit term that means the poverty of Shakti, like a poverty of energy. That like the same way that we can become chronically underslept, chronically dehydrated, chronically undernourished, there's a way in which we get chronically shut off from our own innate ananda, our own innate Shakti. And so the practices that we do are meant to sort of like replenish and restore. It's not about like the Shakti is outside and we're taking it inside. The practices replenish it from the inside. It's like they prime the well, they pump the well that's inside of us.
And there's like a building too. Like, I mean, like, I don't know why for me that language really works. There's like a building of like, even though it's inside, and it's like coming through us, because it's also within everything in existence on that ultimate level. So there is this like drawing forth or building, that we do when we're doing the mantra, when we're doing the fire ceremony, in the same ways that, I think when we're looking at, our body and our nervous system and what you were just naming, all these things of like being hungry, being depleted, it's like these experiences, sometimes they even happen on an emotional level, you know what I mean? Where we have a thought or we get a text or something happens and we get that flood of like, it's even like a visual thing that happens because our senses are connected to what, that Shakti or that lack of Shakti that we're, experiencing inside. And we'll even get tunnel vision. I mean, that's what tunnel vision is. It's actually like you're in such a heightened state of survival, even if it's something that's not happening in the moment, but something that was triggered from the past that you can't even see. And that's why, I loved when you were saying that, because I just was imagining like how many times I've been spiritually nourished in a way that like opened up that periphery, where that like, like I can recall so many times of being like, oh, I could see better, like after doing the ceremony we're about to do. It's like after I'm like, oh, I could see, like I can actually physically see better. Like, I don't know what, I couldn't even, it feels sometimes like I can't even see like what's happening and like, where am I? And, it like, it cleanses this mirror of perception, that naturally gets clouded just by life, and by living in a world that even there's a lot of spiritual practices out there that from my perception feel like devoid of Shakti. They feel devoid of the feminine. They feel devoid of like
Shakti sucking, we were saying.
Yeah.
We went past some people that were like chanting out in public the other day, and they were these, sort of like, I don't have to go into too much about that. Yeah. But anyway, it was just like, not only did we not want to sit down with them and chant, but it felt like that, like they were actually sucking the Shakti out of the environment compared to, if you come to India with us, and sometimes we'll go to the temple and they'll be like a singer, like singers will like go and like sit at a temple and like sing devotional songs. It's so beautiful. And sometimes their artistry is just so gorgeous. And that has this Shakti promoting kind of quality. But sometimes it's just like these old ladies that don't have nice voices, that are like playing these cymbals, not in good rhythm. And that also, just through their sincerity, also has that quality.
The devotion, right? Like coming back to like Bhakti, coming back to, it's like the devotion And finding our innate devotion is a huge part of what replenishes and restores Shakti, like that feminine, back to reality. I mean, it's always there, but there are forces that take it away. There are forces. And I love what you're saying. And, I had an experience in this Black Madonna church, and I know Mike actually, yeah, okay. I was like, Mike, somebody that was here, I was with him on pilgrimage, and what you were just saying of the Ammas in India when they're singing and you feel that. And I experienced that in this Black Madonna church that used to be an Isis temple, where these, older women came in to sing their chants to the Black Madonna, and their voices, I couldn't even share it with anyone else, like after the experience, because their voices were so like, it hurt your ears, but like it was coming from their navel in this way that was like, everybody was just like sobbing, right? It was just like, and I was like taken into this whole past life experience, and it was so powerful, like their devotion, but it was something that just like didn't translate at all. You know what I mean? And this is like what I think we tap into when we really feel into and take the time like we're doing to really create a space for our devotion, and in a real way, not just in like a performative way, but like really letting it sink down into our bones, into our belly, into our umbilical cord. It's like that, that energy of like what plugs us in to the mother, to source, and 100%. They lived their whole lives in devotion. They only live in this town because of this Black Madonna, like that, like the town is otherwise generally deserted except for when there's pilgrimage times and processions. But these people only live there for her and for the land, that's there. And it's just so potent, to feel that we all carry that, we all carry this deep devotion that, we naturally forget, that we have, that can bring us so much relief and so much, we could take so much refuge inside of. So
I just want to read what Carly said, and then I feel like we should light the fire.
Okay.
So Carly said, I've been feeling tired from the strength that is required to be in integrity and honor my truth all the time in a way that is decent and loving towards everyone else as well. I've never felt this way before, but I am tired of doing the quote right thing all the time. My spirit feels restless and I am craving to fuck some shit up, and I don't even know what that means. But I'm feeling like I want to behave recklessly so I can let go of what feels like a pressurized impulse to be perfect. I want to let things fall and break. First of all, Carly, you're in the right community.
We're all like, yeah.
But also this is like such a perfect thing for something that I wanted to bring in, which is that we're talking about Bhakti. There's a course coming up on Bhakti, so I'm thinking a lot about it. But like the spiritual path in general, but Bhakti yoga as what we're talking about, it's very fiery. Because it's like we're faced with things that we're like improving and correcting and like doing the right thing. I'm not sure if this is exactly what Carly's talking about, but it's very fiery. It's like our face is being turned into a mirror and looking at our own ass all the time. If we care, if we're trying to sort of like be more free and help other people be more free and like be more loving and less harmful and all this kind of stuff. It's like, it's fiery. But Bhakti also is what, so it's fire, but it also is water. And it has to have that element too in your practice, I'm saying. So it's like, to whatever degree your practice is fiery and transformational, make sure that it's also watery and replenishing. I'll talk about fucking shit up in just a second, but it's like, that's where the practices that do nourish you, that do connect you to that wellspring of ananda, that do like moisten, your heart and like give you that sense of love, because at a certain level, love is love and it should feel like love. It shouldn't just always feel like fire, like austerity all the time, when we're trying to do the right thing.
I also wanted to say quickly about the water before you get to that. It's like, I just keep having this image, and this is to everybody, but, to Carly, of the ocean, you know what I mean? Too, of like, there's this watery, there's this, this is what alchemy is, right? It's like, whoa, I'm feeling all this fire. It's like, what's going to make more space for it? Like, this is obviously one of the places to come do that. And
I was just thinking about like the ferocity of the ocean, and like how there's something that's like sustaining that too. And I think that, what you were just saying is also like going into the source, of that ferocity, and why I love Bhakti yoga. Cause it's like what Carly's sharing is like, yes, like that's Bhakti. Like it is that feeling of like I want to like energetically like rip off this skin. And there's a place for that, like to do that, to not just feel burdened by that impulse or feel like there's something wrong with you or start to hate yourself. Like these are the things that when we don't have context, that's what happens. We start to feel like I need to get out of this body. And that becomes all kinds of, difficult things to deal with. But on this path where it's like, okay, great. Like, let me shed this skin, and see what happens. You know what I mean? And, yeah, that quality of like the love that is also like, yeah. What was that? There's some animal sounds coming from outside, speaking of fucking shit up.
But yeah, it's like that thing, water. That fucking shit up stuff. And also maybe just take a look and make sure nobody needs help. That also, coming back to the elements, sometimes that's a sign of like earth overload too. Like so much stability and so much good behavior and so much, like following rules or so much, that then there's this need for fire there, in the sense of like, not the transformational fire, but in the sense of the freedom and the expansion and the dancing of fire. I mean, that's why we do so much dancing, in this system too. They can't hear me. No, they can't.
I'm yelling. I'm trying to yell from the kitchen, but I don't think that works over the screen. The last thing I wanted to say was just like, because obviously we're like, we could talk about this all day. But just like the outrage, right, is a phase of like in our good friend and one of my teachers, Mirabai Starr, in her phases of grief, outrage is one of them. And like, it's like that experience of just like, outrage is such a natural response, actually, to so many things that we've encountered, so many things we see that are happening in the world, all of the essence of suffering too, like as an alchemist and, as somebody who's here to work with these energies. So
you definitely don't want it to be.
So yeah, that outrage is an important, piece of grief work, which is so much of everything that we do.
Sure, I like the fun.
Yeah. So Harsha is going to light the fire, and I'll just invite everybody to just take a moment to just look around your space and take a nice stretch in your arms. Make sure you turn all the way around and look behind you. Take some stretches. Oh. Just let's do the Ganesha mantra together. Just the no, I'm just saying just together, just once before we go through it. And just let your eyes find something in your space that feels natural or pleasant to look at, and let yourself kind of meditate with your eyes open for a moment to just like really let your body feel where you are and really sense where you are. Ekadantaya vidmahe vakratundaya dhimahi tanno danti prachodayat. So just invoking Ganesha, this energy of protection, this, awareness of like allowing what's going to nurture to come in and, pushing out and keeping away all of the forces that are not in service to collective liberation, to unconditional love. doing the mantra.
You can tell them, but tell them what we're offering.
I don't. Okay. So we're gonna be feeding the fire when we do this practice, as many of you know, and we're gonna be offering ghee. Harshita is gonna offer ghee as we do the mantra. And then we have some rice, and so we'll be feeding the fire with rice and black seed, and there's different kinds of herbs that we'll be offering and sacred wood that we'll be offering as we go. The mantra we're going to do, many, if not most of you are familiar with, because we, do this practice in a lot of our trainings, but it's a mantra to Lakshmi, and we're going to do that one.
No.
Okay. Never mind. I was like, I don't think that's what we're doing. Okay. I'll say the words. You could just say it out loud back so you can get used to saying it. Om, Shreem, Maha means great. Shreem is a word for Lakshmi. Lakshmi Namaha. So it's like bowing and like, allowing yourself to receive, coming close to the earth, all of these blessings of protection and inner worth and beauty and love, and offering whatever it is that's in you that needs to be offered without there being any rules around what that means. So we're going to do it out loud. You can do it out loud or in silence inside. We're going to do 108 rounds out loud. Together. Okay. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. 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 Last one. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha.
Om Mahalakshmi cha vidmahe Vishnu Patni cha dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi prachodayat.
Let your eyes either rest on the fire or let them close. And just
Actually, if anybody there was in the retreat. We're going to take these flowers and we're not making them as an offering. We're like burning them up, which is slightly different. Oh, if any of you were here for the Ojai Maha Yoga retreat, we have some of the marigold petals that were in the room, and the flowers really absorb our energies and the work that we're doing. And so we're not making these as an offering with the rice and everything. We're actually putting these in the fire as a way of offering to the fire, like letting go of whatever everyone brought and let go of in the retreat.
You can just take some breaths into your body and just feel for yourself, all of you, just, all these aspects, like first personally and then collectively, of like the ways that lack and greed and addiction like show up in your world. And just like breathe into the fire that you are, because sometimes when we're feeling that overwhelm of fire, sometimes the antidote is to bring it to a fire. And the transmutation can happen when fire meets fire, because you are fire as much as you are whatever your name is. There's some part of you that is fire. And so just breathing a little deeper into your belly, feeling the earth below your body. You can even breathe in all of this support of the unseen and tapping in with your own guides and angels. That whole field, that Siddha Loka, it's called, where all the masters and the beings that are here, that are there to support you in this journey that your soul is on, that your human heart is on, and just breathing with them and allowing yourself to even breathe out some of that inherited lack or greed, and feeling also the ways that that shows up in the collective and the many disturbing ways that humans inflict suffering on one another and the earth. Holding space for all the beings in between worlds, all those that are leaving their bodies, all those that are entering the world for the first time.
And letting yourself be here in the family of mystics. You're part of our family, and we are part of the family of mystics that go back for thousands of years. And being here as a part of that family, being open to your inheritance, and being open to messages that come through in moments like this for you.
You can just stay where you are if you want to stay there and just keep tuning in and listening. If you want to start to gently let yourself come out, wiggling your toes, moving your body. Let your eyes rest on fire or something natural in your space for a moment, just to keep kind of allowing the guidance, the protection to keep unfolding. And also just those energetic boundaries that get kind of just very naturally, placed within our body, within our worlds when we name, when we put this sound out with the mantra, when we acknowledge the transformational aspect of love.
And I'd love to hear if anyone got messages.
Yeah, you can definitely put them in the chat. We have some time
during the fire ceremony or in that time afterward.
So, and also, if anyone has any questions, we'll be here till like 10:15. So we have some time, and maybe Ali can also put Harshita, the link to Harshita's Bhakti course, just so it's in there. So if you want to, learn more about that, and you can share more about that in a moment, but we'd love to just give you a chance to kind of orient back to the group, see what that's like, and just share a little bit in the chat, or you can either raise your hand or just unmute and just share any messages or just something you're noticing in your body, anything at all that you would like to share, or any questions you have, or that questions that came up. Make sure you drink a lot of water.
I can share something.
Great.
Yeah, after the fire, I just had this thought come to mind, like it was like an imagination exercise. Like, what would it be like if I actually lived my authentic self and stepped into some of the things that I am like that I dream about? Like I felt it like it was from a place of curiosity, a question like, what would it feel like in my body? Would it feel like grounding? Would it feel like exciting? Would it feel like momentum in my body, to actually like take the leap and do it? So it was kind of like it was like an action oriented feeling.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you.
Love that.
Yeah.
So it felt that to me sounds like it's kind of like the initiation of motivation. Like the energy that's there is the beginning eruption of motivation into action, something like that, like tuning into that pure energy.
Beautiful.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
Who else would like to share? And it's good practice, obviously, like especially online. Satsang is always like, ooh, you really step into this portal, but you'll be held and caught, and then you'll leave, and it'll 99.9% chance that it'll be a positive experience. So it's a way that we heal, is by sharing and by naming what we know, what you know, right? This is like why we're here, is for you. We do this all the time alone. So we're here today for you.
Jordan, I love this question. How do you forgive when no apology has been made? How do you survive when all you feel is anger? I've never felt anger most of my whole life, and now it's here, and all I feel all day, every day, it's consuming. I love this. Can you highlight, or can you like spotlight Jordan?
I don't know if they're on the,
and me.
I don't know if they're, meaning I don't know if, oh, there, okay. Hi, Jordan. Do you want to be on camera? Just, do you want to, no, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the great things about bringing the divine into your life, because whoever the person is, I'm assuming it's a person who you haven't gotten an apology from. Okay, so they've harmed you in some way, or they've done something that has created suffering for you. And on one level, they are responsible. On another level, God is responsible. This is a hard aspect of bhakti yoga and the relationship with the divine. But I'm just saying this from personal experience and working with some really deep resentments and some deep harms that have been done to me that I'll probably never get apologized to for. That ultimately, the one that I need to forgive is not them. It's not the person. My beef is with God. My beef is with the goddess. My beef is with that power of grace that I've been trying to establish this relationship with. And then this thing happens through a person or through some people. And if I get hyper focused on the people that have done it, I'm missing a big piece. And I'm also probably never going to be satisfied, because rarely do we ever get the satisfaction of justice or like the person apologizing or realizing the mistake that they've made and mend their ways and beg us for forgiveness. It almost never happens, at least in a way that satisfies that part of us that wants it to happen. And so really it's like, make the relationship between you and grace, between you and the power of the universe that you want to learn to love and trust, and forgive them. And really accept the harm that has happened, that it has happened. And now, and fuck you, God, goddess, grace, guru, for doing this, because I did not want to have to experience all this pain. And help me, and help me forgive you, God, goddess, grace.
Yeah.
And work on that level. It's one of the really powerful things about having this relationship with the divine.
Yeah. And I love, what you're saying, that like, I haven't experienced anger, right? Like that hasn't been my go-to, right? And I think on this path of the heart and of embodied love, right? This passage of anger and sometimes feeling like it's all consuming. I'll get to part of like what to do with that, but it's more like that is part of the rite of passage, like into the body, is to like learn how to be with this intensity of like our fight response, right? Because in all these situations, in order to survive, the fight response was not appropriate. And so other responses were. And so now the fact that anger is arising is an indication that you've created so much, safety, actually, like what Harshit is saying, within yourself and with grace for that to even come up. Like that itself to me is an indication that like there's a lot of safety. And yeah, it fucking sucks to be in that. And like what we do, right, is that's part of, truly, I feel like every space, like with Body Temple, that I create is for my fight response. Like I have such an intense fight response now because I didn't for most of my life. And so now I'm like the fire, screaming into a pillow, like meditating so deeply on that inner space of unconditional love that like I can keep remembering that I'm safe no matter what happened to me, no matter what happens, no matter what fucking changes or doesn't in the world that infuriates me. And so I just also want to affirm that like anger is like, it's a righteous thing a lot of times, right? Because in the moment, saying like, no, this is not okay. Even right now, there's so many things happening in the world that each of us could say that to, like right now, like, no, this isn't okay. This will never be okay. But in experiences we've had in the past, to do that would actually potentially put us in greater danger. And so the body has this intelligence and this way of helping us survive. And so part of coming out of survival and into more consciousness in our body and in our relationships is to learn what to do with our anger and how to be held in it in certain spaces and containers and everything that Harshita was just saying of like how to keep bringing it to grace. Like, you know, we're also taught to like not bring these kinds of things to, you know, the power of love that is wider than all of us, but that's exactly where we need to bring it, you know? So I love this question too, so much.
I want to look at Adriana's question. How do you want more without falling into greed? It feels like walking a tightrope sometimes and suffocating from my inner fire. Ooh, I love this. Adriana, you are not on a tightrope. You are so far from a tight. I don't really know you that well, but unless you are like a multimillionaire or a billionaire, you're not walking a tightrope of greed. You're probably struggling at some level to like have the money and have the wealth to even do the humble things that you want to do. This thing of this religious teaching of greed was something that was taught by the fucking temple holders, by the churches, by the synagogues, by the religions that held all of the money and power to tell the people don't be greedy. It's bullshit. Just like take that and just throw that into the fire. Like if you are very, 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 very wealthy and you're not giving, and you're very wealthy and you're trying to like keep your wealth and like not sort of like let others have it, or then look at your greed. But
yeah,
the point where like most of us folks are, not everyone here, but like most of us folks, it's like we're just trying to open up to the natural abundance. Like we're so far behind even natural abundance of just being able to have flow and have like for what we're putting out there, having that flow come back in the form of wealth. Adriana, like go for it. Like you could go for it 10,000 more percent and you wouldn't even be close to that tightrope.
Yeah. I'm having the image of like Jesus like turning over the table.
Fuck yeah.
You know,
Fuck
like
yeah. That was why he got crucified more than anything else, was because of fucking greed.
Yeah.
You know, and because of the greed of the temple.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when we're talking about that sort of thing, when we're talking about like the greed of colonialism, when we're talking about the greed of the big corporations and the genocides, that's greed. This tightrope is not a tightrope, it's a clothesline that every time you want to like go and like surge into some like righteous wealth, Adriana, you're getting clotheslined by this tightrope that the church set up at some point.
Yeah, that's not yours.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like some things are ours, right? And there's percentage, like there's, you know, we're always like decolonizing through our own experience. Like there's so many things that are ours, but this particular thing, depending on where we are, like totally, it's like, it's not yours. Like you throw the fucking clothesline in the fire, like again and again and again, and then see, you know, like, and then see what's there that's like grasping for what you have, you know what I mean?
Greed is a kind of a suffering that wealthy people have to deal with. Period. Like very wealthy people. I want to hear what Holly had her hand up for a while.
And then Jane, yeah.
Holly, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I came in today feeling really anxious, just like a lot of just ungroundedness. And what came up for me was just this feeling that like this anxiety is almost like an addiction, like feeling like it's like this part of myself that wants this constant attention. And I've never really thought of it that way. I've always thought of it as like trauma or, you know, something I have to work through. I have to learn how to be present with, but like really feeling now like I have this choice of whether I give this and these intrusive thoughts and allow it to continue to distract me and take all of my attention, like, because that's what it really wants.
Yes.
And like how to work through that addiction and like and have more self-trust and like have the boundary within myself to say no to it. Like,
yeah, I feel that so much and I can really relate to that. And I think all I want to do is just mirror back what you're saying, because what you're saying is the response. It's like you today in this moment, you're noticing how like, wait, actually, you know, these other ways I've been relating to this part of me, you could say, right, is like to work through it, to like be there, to be present with it, right? Which all says to me that, okay, well, you're already doing that. You've already done that, or that part of you is, that muscle is strengthened, right? And I also hear this other piece of like, actually, maybe a boundary needs to be set. Like maybe not paying attention to it is also love, right? Maybe allowing yourself to be separate from it and to resource, right? Like if we look at all these parts of us and these sensations of anxiety or fear, like these things that come up as inner children, going into everything that your 12-year-old says, like, and believe it, and like be on the battleground with them in every single moment. I'm speaking to him because you care so much and you're like, I'm here, like, give it to me. It's just not effective. And it's like not even what's always actually needed, right? But it's like you care so much, so it's like that's the impulse, but it's also the like what you're saying is as addiction, but it's like the ways that we've been trained from our past to like put our safety in, like, okay, once this person who I deeply love and also situation is okay, then I'm okay. And it's actually like, maybe that part of you is never going to be okay, Holly. Maybe that part of you is going to be disturbed for the rest of your fucking life. And like, may that not be so, but I know for me, oh, there's plenty of parts of me that are never going to be okay. And like, that are just always like, oh man, like when I go into my body, there's like a whole crew of like like underworld demons are like, come down here and feed me, you know. And I'm like, okay, like there's a time for that. Here, I'm gonna tend to that during this session, during this fire ceremony, but then I gotta go. Like I got shit to do, you know. So like, you know, I love your articulation, and your expression is just like complete. Yeah. It's like, yes, like sometimes that boundary, that's what we're talking about, this energetic boundary with this part. It's like, I love you and I gotta go. I'll be back next month during this fire ceremony. But like, girl, like I'm not here all the time. Like you know, that's not what's actually going to nurture that part, even because that part needs to learn boundaries. And you know what I mean? Like this is the learning. And it does get super psychedelic and weird because we're like, oh, but it's not a child. Like this is inside you. And you're like, but what do I do with it? And it, from your share, I feel like you know exactly what to do and you're doing it. So I just want to like affirm that, applaud that. You're teaching everybody, all of us in this moment, how to do that again better next time. Because this isn't something any of us are like, got it. Like we're good. You know what I mean? Like we're ever growing and learning in this way. So you're just at that edge of consciousness, you know, where many of us are like doing this dance.
And if I may add,
yeah, go ahead.
When in the beginning of your question, you said this thing about constantly wanting attention. It's the same thing as the greed myth. It's the same thing. We are beings of love. We are beings of love that can only really be satisfied by infinite love. By divine love. It's like in 12-step program, they say that we have a God-sized hole. And the addict is the one that's trying to put something smaller than God in the God-sized hole. And it's like that same thing of like, oh, well, you just want attention. That's the same thing that was like told from our parents that didn't have enough attention to give us. Yeah. It's the same thing as like saying, oh, don't be greedy. Yeah. It's like, fuck that. Yeah. It's like, let yourself be so hungry for love, but just identify it as that. And so when we're wanting attention or when we're wanting approval from our partner, if we're wanting that some sort of like limited love, just like recognize it, be like, oh God, I'm so hungry. Please love me. Like only you, only that, only that. Yeah. Only that inner divine love that we connect with is the only thing that's ever going to satisfy. Yeah. But to not shame yourself for being like, oh, I'm so thirsty for attention. Yes. And to feel that, like, to know where to bring it, I think is not, you know, it's like, I'm thinking of like, you know, Florence and the Machine, like every like song that like, you don't know that much about Florence and the Machine, but I know a lot of you do. It's like that bitch is like, oh, I'm fucking starving.
you know what I mean? And like made incredible music for us to like cry to and to dance to. And, you know, like this is also what every great mystic, bringing it back to like a more traditional sense, it's like in Bhakti yoga, like if you look up Mirabai poetry in from like the tradition, like the Rajasthani, you know, poet saint Mirabai, it's like every song, every poem is like, I'm dying without you, God, like, please come back to me. It's like the drama is next fucking level. You know what I mean? So it's like knowing where to bring it. Like that's part of why, like in Body Temple, we're like, bring the drama here. Like, don't bring it to your partner who, like, naturally at the very best can only be available most of the time. That's even with a healthy relationship, right? So it's like, who is available all the time, right? Like, I love this. I love this so much because, again, we all need these reminders, you know? And that's part of why we gather in community.
This is who is available all the time. All the time. That's what all of this iconography is about. She's in this lotus pond with these like elephants bestowing lotuses. And she's got like gold raining down from her hands and blessings shining out from her eyes or head. This, all of this iconography is about that infinite source of love, ultimately, that we're all hungry for. And in that hunger, we're all fucking hangry for God's love. Ooh, gotta like write a blog like that. We're hangry for God's love. And that's the thing that, and we don't, like in Al-Anon, they say you don't go to the hardware store to get orange juice. You're not going to find it there. And like, so.
Shout out to Al-Anon.
Enough said. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we have time for one more, Jane.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for the fire. When you invited us at the beginning to share on potentially the grief we're feeling, I didn't quite have a way of articulating it. It didn't feel so kind of ripe and rippling and present that I had to express it in words, but you said something that was like that's it. And it was around the grief of you know, not quite living in the world yet that we all feel in our hearts, or maybe it's here as well, but there's some kind of old structures and systems falling away. And for me, it was the grief of the two of that, what I can feel in my heart and what we know is coming, and then getting caught a little bit in the paradigms of fear around that too. So it was nice to have a just for some words to be put on it without kind of even feeling into it and something you expressed. And then when you said about the to be here in the family of mystics, and you said if anything's coming through, and my pencil has just started like writing in that moment. And there was a couple of things that kind of came through, and it was when you were talking about the greed aspect, and for me it's like I've probably danced more on the lack end of the scale, and it was just that this has all been experienced as a devotional offering to alchemize the opposing misaligned forces into divine harmony, be at peace amidst the madness. That was some words that dripped through in that moment. So thank you for that.
I love that, be at peace amidst the madness, right? Because it like gives that, because to me, peace is like such a disruptive force. You know what I mean? Peace is like not like, it's not what like we will generally teach, or what like capitalism teach, you know, it's like, do this, do this yoga practice to relax, take this pill to like chill out, calm down. You know what I mean? And to me, like peace is that. It's like peace is like, it's like it's a steady force that is like amidst so much fucking madness all the time. I've experienced it within me of like, oh, like this is actually a weighted fucking thing inside. Actually, even just saying the word peace, you know, it's like, for me, because I have a connection to the frequency of it, it's like, it actually also cuts through a lot of bullshit. It's not like let's just ignore this. It's like, no, peace is like a disruptor, you know, it gives us access to that. And I just want to say one thing about the earlier piece that you shared of like not having anything come through, and then feeling that like where the world is, where we are, and like what we know is like what we know we're all doing our best to like birth at this time. You know, in Bhakti yoga, there's this word, there's like so much of the teachings are about longing. And that's why it's like, sometimes you're like, oh, the grief, it's like grief also, again, is like a word that we've learned that it means this, but it's like longing. It's actually like the thing that is continually yearning and longing, and like it's just like tapping in with that, even if it's like what we don't have, what the world doesn't have. It's like that longing for like something different than what we see, than what we, you know, like it's everything in Bhakti yoga. It's the thing that like, well, anyways, I can go on and on, but I'll just leave it there. It's like there's so much.
Sorry, just when you're talking about Jesus flipping the tables, like that image has been with me so much in the past few weeks, because I mean, I'm Libra and people are like, say that's about peace, but often when I'm expressing some truth that has to come through me, it's like causing like what seems like not peace in the field, as it were, where that kind of, you know, misalignment perhaps is. It's like, it doesn't feel peaceful, and it's like, then you get that kind of like the anyway, I could go on into rhapsodies as well, but that was really nice to hear that. And then also when you're saying about the next level drama of it all, like, thank you for that as well. It feels like that part of me that feels that kind of burning madness at times just felt welcome into this space. So thank you so much for holding space for us all. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for being here. And
Libra is all about justice.
Yeah, it's about justice. Justice, a lot of times, is like no justice, no peace, you know?
Yeah. And like, right. You know, when you think about
that's
like
better, that's a better mantra for Libra than anything else. There's no justice, no peace. We have a Libra 9-year-old girl.
We know.
So Cancer rising, no justice, no peace.
There will be no peace.
Capricorn. That's like her, that's her mantra.
Just saying thank you.
Feels so good.
We have so much more to say, but we have to finish this. But I don't have a link that I can have Ali even put in here. She just put in a link to this Bhakti course that is coming up. It's starting the 16th. Definitely come on to that. It's like one of these inexpensive 6-week online courses. If you want to, you can also do for, hugely discounted rates some private sessions that go along with it. It's like a way that I've opened up like that private consulting container for people that are in the course for the time of the course. But just today, I mean, if you're really a crazy motherfucker and you want more today at noon, which is just in an hour and a half Pacific time, on Insight Timer. You have to go on Insight Timer and look me up. I don't have a link to put here, but if you go to Insight Timer and look up Harshada, I'm doing a live class, What is Bhakti Yoga? Where I'm going to go into all of this. And one of the things that I'm going to say that Jane is just inspiring me to remember is that one of the main practices of Bhakti Yoga for me is journaling, is taking the time to actually let the divine talk to me. Every day. It doesn't work so much now, it does in my inner space, but mostly we have this voice in our head that is like cuckoo bananas. And Bhakti Yoga journaling gives us the ability to sit down and cultivate this voice of the divine coming through and speaking to us the way that it did for Jane and then sharing. And you can also in your journal get out the cuckoo bananas too. I usually will do that. I'll get out the cuckoo bananas and then I'll like sit and I'll be like, I talk to my guru, like, what do you want me to know about this? And then cuckoo banana. Okay, nope, that's not the guru. So no, really, I need to hear from you. I need to hear from you. What is it? What is it? And then that voice comes and it's like, oh,
it's also how it's also how we heal like our religious trauma and all this shit we're talking about. Cause like you can, and I know many of you already know this, but there are guides that you have that want to speak to you and like they'll show up in different forms and that will inform what your next maybe layer of like education or desire to learn. It's like you can trust that, right? And so you don't have to trust what other people say. You can like, oh wow, like to us it's not weird and someone's like, oh, I had this vision and like Mother Mary came to me and said blah da 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 da, or it's like, oh, I was hearing voices. Like I was joking with my friend Kat at the beach yesterday because she's like, oh yeah, like whatever, like someone saying like, oh yeah, I heard this voice da da da, and we're like, oh, what'd it say? You know what I mean? Like, but like in culture, in like modernity where people are like, oh, are you okay? Like, it's like this indication that something's wrong. I'm like, oh my God, what did it say? Like, what, like, tell me, I want to know everything. Like, what is the other unseen world telling you? You know, it's like, we need to know, because everybody's telling everybody everything in the seen world, and everybody's saying the same shit over and over, including me, and or they're just like saying a bunch of other bullshit, you know what I mean? So it's like, that is where the Shakti comes from, is, in my experience, is the unseen world. It's like, that's what informs my teachings and what I share on Instagram or whatever. It's like, it's coming not just from like, oh, what do people want? It's like cuckoo bananas. I got a lot of cuckoo bananas out. And then last thing, if you do want to like dance, if you're not already in our membership, you know, you can go to bodytemple.church. We dance every Friday. We get out all the fucking cuckoo bananas, and we just dance with the cuckoo bananas. Sometimes we don't even get them out, because some cuckoo bananas are here to stay, apparently.
We got to learn to dance with our cuckoo banana. Also, in the Big Heart Transformation World membership is another offering that I do. I always forget to encourage people to do, but we give you a playlist every week that you could do for your daily dance. And this week's playlist is definitely cuckoo bananas. Like, in the
I helped put it together. Okay. I just want to read what Jackie said, because I want to know, and then I need to go. When I was walking in, the biggest yellow butterfly was floating around me as I was walking into the door, as you were all talking about the voice of Shakti being inspired. So beautiful. We love a butterfly message.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, you can unmute to say bye. We'll
Keep in
see you next
touch.
time. Reach out.
Hey, thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ali, for your help.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ali.
so much. Bye.